Hello gamers, your ears are in the right place. You're listening to I Never Cast for this episode 2. And we are a podcast dedicated to bringing forth discussions on controversial gaming topics and hopefully putting them to rest. And today we're going to be talking about remasters or HD remasters and reboots in the gaming industry. But before we get to that, I have a few guests with us today, so let's introduce them. Returning from last week and the week before, we have Trelard. How's it going, Trelard?
Things are going pretty good. Still a bit tired from the puppy, but I don't know. Life's generally good anyway. Haven't really got to play much this week. A bit of Call of Duty, bit of Secret World Legends, and that's about it.
Yeah, that's cool. Puppy's treating you well.
Whenever she's not being a monster, yeah.
Right on, right on. And also joining us for the first time on the podcast, officially, we have Arebus. How's it going, Arebus?
Not too bad, not too bad. Happy to be here.
Welcome, welcome. What have you been up to this week?
Thank you.
Well, I know it's only Monday, but...
Just playing lots of World of Warcraft. I bought, what's it called? LA Noire. So I'm going to be playing that. Hopefully I'm not a big single-player gamer, but I'm hoping to get into that a little this week. But mostly just World of Warcraft right now, trying to work on all my characters, playing with a few buddies.
Nice.
Yep.
Sounds like fun. Yeah.
Yeah.
LA Noire is an awesome game. I'm probably going to buy that too, honestly.
Yeah, it looks pretty amazing. I'm big into like the sleuth type games, so like Phoenix Wright and those types of games. So I'm hoping it'll be a good time.
Yeah, for sure. Cool. Well, let's get into the gaming news first of all. So we have some news about graphics cards. So, Trailer, what's going on with graphics cards right now?
Well, the cryptocurrency miners are apparently renting Boeing 747s to transport the graphics cards that they're purchasing with this cryptocurrency. At the minute, it's mostly, for the most part, NVIDIA GTX cards, 1060s, 1070s. Yeah. However, you could be looking at a cheaper price point for the new Radeon RX Vegas, which they announced yesterday. At the high end, the RX Vega 64 is going to have liquid cooling, so that's something new. It's going to be released on August 14th, and the lowest price mark for the lowest card is going to be $399, and will ship apparently with Prey and Wolfenstein 2: The New Colossus.
That's a pretty good deal, seems like.
Yeah.
Yeah, what's your opinion on that?
Well, anything to bring down the prices of the cards, because they've been artificially spec'd because of this cryptocurrency debacle, and it's pricing basically just regular gamers out. So once this all gets sorted out and these cryptocurrencies start to lose value, which I believe is actually happening at the minute for some of them, then we'll get back to business as usual.
No, that's good. Yeah, because I'm looking to get a new graphics card myself pretty soon. And Arebus, I believe you told me you were looking to get a new one as well, weren't you?
I am looking for a new graphics card. Yeah, like I've been keeping close watch on the prices, but it's been that whole cryptocurrency thing has kind of screwed up the prices. The only one that hasn't really been affected that I saw was the 1080 and the 1080 Ti, which I think is the card I might go for. I was a strong advocate for the 1070, but based on the new prices, I think the 1080 is a better option. But I think if the old price is the 1070 was the best bang for your buck. But I think I'm gonna pull the trigger on the 1080. I think it's more future proof.
Yeah, go big or go home.
Exactly.
Yeah. No, I need to get a new one myself. Mine is dying. I've been playing some Shadow of Mordor today, and it's a wicked game, but like constantly when I'm looking around, I just see artifacts and black pixels everywhere. It's driving me insane. So hopefully the prices all go down pretty soon. Think any other news for graphics cards?
No, I think that was it.
Yeah, okay. Moving on to Twitch.tv. they've actually, if anyone remembers back in the day, not back in the day, but I mean, I think it was a few years ago, there was Twitch Plays Pokemon, and basically the viewers could input commands such as left, right, start, that kind of stuff. And by doing that, you could actually control the character, and all the fights in Pokemon Red is the original one. And I think they moved on to the sequels after that. But that similar system has been moved over to PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds, which is pretty hilarious. Trelard, what was going on with that specifically?
Well, I'm not too sure when they started, but it was definitely within the past week. And I do know, what I do know on what I've seen, they actually managed in the second day to get third place. And this is with people on Twitch giving commands to this thing. They also managed to get a kill, although there's some debate over whether the person that they killed was watching the stream, so allowed it to happen. But fact of the matter is, they did manage to kill somebody.
That's pretty hilarious. The fact that came third place is one thing. Well, that's I don't know what's more remarkable, honestly. Getting a kill or coming in third place, that's pretty awesome. Yeah, I know myself and Arebus play a lot of PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds, so that's pretty impressive.
That is impressive, yeah. Battlegrounds is an incredible game, too. I saw that it sold over 5 million copies, I think it just passed, or 6 million copies or something like that.
That's insane. And it's coming to console. It's coming to Xbox, actually, as well. So that's going to boost sales for sure. I don't think it's crossplay, though, which I assume it won't be, because that would give an unfair advantage to PC players.
It will, and I don't think they need it. I think the player base is high enough, and it keeps growing. And then with those first-person-only servers, I think that'll make a big difference.
Oh, yeah, I can't wait for that. It's going to be amazing. Yeah, so I'm actually going to be tuning into that Twitch Plays PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds. That's going to be something awesome to watch. But some other, is it called PUBG or PUBG? I don't even know how to.
It's called Pubes.
I don't think that's quite it, but
or Pubga for short.
Yeah, that's probably that's pretty close. More news with that. There's actually been some complaints from streamers who have been streaming PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds, complaining that they're getting stream sniped. Trelard, I know you have a strong opinion on this.
Yeah, well, a player actually got banned for so-called stream sniping. Now, my own personal view is that the ban was bogus, just simply because if someone's stupid enough to play a competitive game, such as this, and then complain whenever people seek them out, then that's, I don't know, personal responsibility. Either put a delay on the stream so that there's less chance of it happening, or just don't stream it. It's stupid. It's completely stupid to allow something like this to happen and then get somebody banned just because you want to cry about it.
Yeah. When
there's ways that you can actually, nip it in the bud right from the start.
Yeah, exactly. Like, is it a mean thing to do technically from a viewer's point of view? Yes, I guess, but it's almost expected. Like, if you think of all the trolls on the internet and what the internet community can be like in certain games, for sure, that's expected. So streamers should pull out the tools necessary to combat that. Like you said, introduce a delay or something like that, just so that can't happen. Do you have an opinion on that, Arebus?
Yeah, I think there's not really anything that they can do. There's certain games that they have stream protection, like covering up the mini map or doing different things to protect it. But there's not really anything you can do in Battlegrounds, because if somebody's in your game and you're hiding away, it's pretty easy to tell where that person is. So I don't really know what the mechanism is for them to protect against stream sniping. Maybe some type of UI thing that they could do. I'm not sure, but it'd be nice to see an effort from the developer to somehow combat that. But otherwise, the only other way would be to delay your stream a significant amount of time, and then that impacts your ability to interact with the viewers. That being said, it would be difficult to interact with the viewers during a Pubga game, because it's relatively like, if you're actually playing the game legit, it's hard to take your eyes off the screen and focus on chat while you're playing. It's pretty intense, but I don't know. I'd like to see something probably from the developers, but yes, to Willie's point, they kind of have to stop whining about it too, because if you're streaming, then it's just going to happen, and you kind of have to just laugh it off.
Yeah, because they have names displayed in it too, don't they? Like, you can look at So
yeah, there's some other game that does that, right? That it hides your. I remember watching that. I can't remember what game it was. That it had some stream protection where it hid your player name or hid something so people couldn't get into your game. I can't remember how it worked.
Yeah, I don't know what game that was either, but I just figured that would be an easy way to combat it. Honestly, just don't hide everyone's name except people that are in your own party. And
Yeah.
I guess I don't know. There might be something more complicated with it, but to me that would be fun.
The problem is when you're hiding at the end of the game and you're in like the circle and you're in a house, it's pretty easy for them to figure if they're in your game and they know they're in your game for you to hide. There's no way to do it if you're streaming.
Yeah, I guess that's true too. And how would they prove it too that someone was actually stream sniping?
I think that's the issue. Is it's difficult to prove.
Yeah, but the fact that it's difficult to prove and someone got banned seems like a problem.
Oh, I saw that story too. It was extremely controversial.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anything else about that?
No, we should play that sometime soon.
Yes. I know it's been getting more and more optimized, so my computer can actually handle it. So yes, I'm up for that.
Cool.
Moving on to something I'm very excited about, and Arebus, I think you are too, for sure. StarCraft Remastered is coming out August 14th, and I played the first game an unhealthy amount back when I was a child, and it's one of my favorite games of all time, so I'm like really, really excited about the remastered version. Did you guys play a lot of StarCraft growing up?
Well,
I played mostly the single player. I'm pretty sure you guys played the hell out of the multiplayer, though.
I played an absolute metric poo ton of StarCraft. It was when I was younger. I played it on a Nintendo 64 first with our friend Shane. Michael was there too, Keltharr. And I found it a lot more challenging than StarCraft 2 is. Just mechanically, I found it a lot more difficult to play. Is it going to have the F2 feature?
No, F2 was simply just for.
Well, I don't know how I'm going to play StarCraft if I have to macro my units or micro my units that way. I don't know what set up control groups because me and my buddy Ryan, we use that F2 key like a boss in StarCraft.
Yeah, that was my problem with StarCraft too. It was like you can highlight as many units as you want, or essentially.
Yeah.
There's just a lot of mechanics that seemed kind of noob friendly, but I don't know. I miss the old mechanics from the first game, so I'm really looking forward to that. Yeah, and hopefully, I'm sure they hold up too.
Yeah, the graphics look really good too. I've watched some videos of it. The high definition stuff and the new animations and stuff look really good.
Yeah, and it's the exact same engine as the first game, which is great because I think a lot of people thought it was going to be just in the StarCraft 2 engine, which would have not been good at all in my opinion. Like they needed to have the classic version of it, so I'm really happy they did that. And Propzilla in chat here says he has over 2,500 games, so that is significant. You obviously play it a lot too. Yes. And for those that don't know, we do broadcast live on Twitch on Mondays at 8:30 p.m. Eastern time, around there. A bit later than that today, but that's no big deal. Twitch.tv/I never cast for this, so feel free to tune in live if you're listening on podcast. So actually StarCraft Remastered kind of was a foundation for our topic today, which we will get into now. So the topic of the week is remasters and reboots, or HD remasters, I should say. So, first of all, what exactly is a remaster? Anyone have an idea?
A remaster is basically, usually it's just a reskinning to make it look shinier on newer hardware. Usually there isn't anything new as far as mechanics and things go. It's literally just to make it look a bit prettier. So it's, we'll get into the details, the nitty gritty, but that's the basics of what a remaster is.
Yeah, cool. Wow, and now Arebus' screen is very dark. Getting serious now.
No, well, it's an example of a remaster. But
remaster gone wrong. Yeah.
No, I just hated the fact that I looked like I was on Touched by an Angel, illuminated face. But anyways, like remaster, I think is kind of it's the graphics is the main part. Most of the remastered games that we'll probably talk about are just graphical updates and different things like that. But There are some games that we can probably get into as well that have, remastered and changed some mechanics of the game or added some features or some extra content or whatever, but kept the general foundation of the game. So it depends on, I guess, the definition of remaster and how we're going to use it. But generally, yeah, it's just an update of the graphics and maybe some freshening up of the features.
Yeah. I think you guys both nailed it for sure. So there's remasters, but there's also reboots. So what's the difference in case someone's not quite sure?
A reboot is basically just a reimagining. It's an example would be the original Prey game, and then the new Prey that was released there within the past year. It's basically the same name, but it's a totally different game. So they actually rebooted it after they had Prey 2, which was going to follow on from the original Prey, but then they decided just to scrap that and start the whole thing over again.
So does Prey, the reboot of Prey, does that actually share a lot of similar concepts with the first game, or is it mainly just like the name that they kept?
It's mainly the name that they kept. I have played both. I did enjoy the original one, and I did enjoy the reboot. The original one, the big thing about it was you could run through portals,
yes,
and the way that mechanic was set up. But they removed that in this new one. But whereas the old one played more as a straight-up just shooter with these interesting mechanics, the reboot plays, I don't know, it's a mix of, System Shock / Deus Ex / a first-person shooter. So it's a different, totally different from the way that the original went.
Okay. So that one wouldn't be a remaster because it is a brand new game, more of a.
It is. It's a reboot.
Yeah, reimagining, like you said. So, in regards to remasters, I guess, do we have? I guess we can just start with some examples. Like, what's a pretty popular example of a remastered game?
Well, the obvious one would be BioShock 1 and 2. That one sorely needed an update on new gen consoles, just simply because it did not look good on older consoles. They always looked decent on the PC. The good thing about this was the console players had to purchase the BioShock trilogy from scratch. Whereas for PC, if you already owned it on Steam, you got BioShock 1 and 2 for free. They didn't remaster BioShock Infinite on PC because there's really no need to, because the version that was ported over to the new gen of consoles was technically the PC version as far as graphics and whatnot went.
And that game's pretty new anyway. I think it came out in 2014 or early 2015, around there.
Yeah. Sounds about right.
Yeah. What was I going to say about that? Yeah, BioShock 1. I remember BioShock 1 on PC, Arebus. That was one of your first big...
That was my first game after I got a Dell XPS laptop.
Yeah.
One of the shittiest laptops I've ever had, but it ran the game really well. Crappiest, sorry, Michael. Just getting on the topic again, the remastered games. So there's two games that come to mind for me for remastered games. The first one being my favorite would be Chrono Trigger. Chrono Trigger was a game I played on an emulator, one of the best RPGs of all time if anyone hasn't played it. And they remastered it, I guess would be the word, for the Nintendo DS. The graphics didn't really change that much. They did improve them a little bit, and they added a couple of new dungeons and some extra features and quality of life features within the game. But for the most part, it was the same game, but it really, really applied well to the handheld kind of style. And the other remaster game that I think is probably one of the best iterations of a remastered game is the original Halo game when they put it on. Was it on the Xbox 360 or the Xbox One? I can't remember. But they remastered the Halo games, and one of the coolest features in those games, I thought, was the ability to change between the old graphics and the new remastered graphics on the fly. And I thought that was a really cool touch for the nostalgia type piece. So if you're in a room that you remember as a kid when you were playing, you could just hit the select button and it would go to the old graphics and then back to the new graphics. So you could kind of reminisce on the old times and remember what the levels used to look like. So I thought that was a cool feature that I think they should apply in a lot of these other remastered type games.
Yeah, I thought that was a good idea too. Yeah, it was the Halo Combat Evolved Anniversary game.
That's what it was. Yeah. What?
That was on Xbox 360.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And that came out in like 2012 or 2011, I think it was. And I remember when that first came out too. I was super stoked. Like Halo 1 is an amazing game. And yeah, I like that feature too. How you could press the back button and see the old graphics with the new graphics and how much they improved. But it's a good remaster in that they actually included the full, like the graphics are complete overhauled. Like they actually look way different. And it's not just like a couple reskins here and there. Like it looks way, way better. So yeah,
I think the gameplay was 100% the same. I don't think they changed anything with that, did they? Or did they add anything? I can't remember.
No, as far as I know, the gameplay is exactly the same, and it had online multiplayer, and which the original game didn't have. So
right.
So I think it was a really, and I think it was only, at least Canadian price, it was $39.99 at the time, which is great for a new release game. Even though it is a remaster, but I think it was a reasonable.
Well, that's a whole other podcast topic. Should they be charging full price for these remastered games, or I don't know if you're including that in this, but that's a whole other thing. Yeah, but yes, I think $39.99 was a fair price.
Yeah, we'll probably touch on that, but
yeah.
Did you play? You played all the Halo games too, didn't you, Trelard?
Yeah, well, through the Master Chief Collection, I managed to get through the entirety of Halo 1 to 4. The thing I found most jarring about that was they didn't remake Halo 3. So jumping from Halo 2, which was completely remastered, and then going back to what the graphics were for Halo 3 on the 360, it was a bit of a shock. And then going back into more up-to-date graphics with Halo 4. So that's the only thing. That's the only downside I can say about the Halo Master Chief Collection, was they didn't do Halo 3 as well.
Yeah, no, I agree. I play like Halo 1 looks decent, but they had already remastered that, like when Arebus was saying with the first game, Combat Evolved Anniversary. And yeah, Halo 2 looked fantastic. Like that game looked really, really good. But yeah, like you said, Halo 3, like that totally could have used, like yes, it was still naturally in HD, but it still could have used an overhaul. And Halo 4 still looked good, and which was fine. But it would have been nice if they did something with Halo 3. But yeah, did you play that too, Mark? Or Arebus?
No, I only played the first Halo 1 and Halo 2.
Oh, okay. Yeah, they're all worth playing, I think. The campaign is where they shine.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. What else can we talk about here? The lack of backwards compatibility, I think, is causing a big issue in the gaming industry, because if there was backwards compatibility, do you think a lot of remasters would be made in the first place?
Probably not, because they really wouldn't need to. I mean, Sony this generation is far more to blame than Microsoft. Now Sony does have a streaming option to stream older games, but then that leads into the problems of, well, you're streaming a game from a server, so all of your inputs are there's going to be lag there, so that's going to have an inherent problem. But even then, that compounds it. But whenever they are releasing these remasters for newer generation consoles, like for example, they can be good and they can be bad. I mean, the Metal Gear HD collection was a good one. It included Metal Gear Solid 2, 3, and Peace Walker. But but the big thing for me was it came with Metal Gear 3, which at that point hadn't been released on PC, still hasn't. And I didn't own a PS2, so I never got to play it. So being able to play that on a PS3 was worth it for me. Then you have the other side of the coin, where they just released something that's absolutely atrocious. You got Silent Hill HD collection, which included Silent Hill 2 and 3. The graphics there really wasn't that much of an upgrade in graphics compared to the original. It looked bad. Even the effects in the game were horrible. The controls just weren't there. It was basically, I feel it was a cash grab for the laziest quotient possible, because they really didn't do that much work on it to release it for the PlayStation 3.
Yeah, and I guess that's where the issue comes in. You had some good examples there, but like when does a remaster become a cash grab, and when does it become something actually useful that gamers should run out and go buy? Arebus, do you have an opinion on that, Arebus?
I think it comes to like accessibility. Like, I don't think anybody, at least that I saw, like using the Chrono Trigger example, they did very, very little with the Chrono Trigger change. Even the graphics were the same. But I think applying that to the DS and the handheld market for a completely new generation of gamers who would never in their life have a Super Nintendo or buy a Super Nintendo for the most part, that game just wasn't accessible. So I think I don't think that was a cash grab. But again, to my point, to kind of on the pricing point, I don't think it should be a full price game, just simply because it's not a new game. It's something that some people, like, you know, a lot of people would have experienced before, or at least the older gamers would have. So, and I think if the game is adding multiplayer functionality to an existing game that, you know, maybe didn't have multiplayer or doesn't have the ability to play multiplayer, I think that can warrant some type of price as well. And I don't view that as a cash grab, even if they've made like no other changes to the game. Because I think if there's a game that people like StarCraft, people just want to play multiplayer StarCraft again. So I think if they just released StarCraft again and added multiplayer functionality, people would buy it. Yes, they're doing some other stuff with it, which is nice, but I don't view that as a cash grab either.
Yeah, and I think that's a good point. Like, I think it depends on the kind of game. Like you said, StarCraft, like, people want the original StarCraft. They don't want the original StarCraft with a few units added. Like, they want the core gameplay of the original game, for sure. Right. And I think
I think it also comes down to the price point. With StarCraft, you're looking at what, $15?
Yeah,
and that's a long ass game campaign to get through. Whereas you have the likes of this. And for me, this is an issue, was Elder Scrolls V Skyrim. Whenever they released the one with the updated graphics for PC, those were already available via mods. But then they went and released it, and they went and released it at full price, which for me was like, okay, what's the point of this?
Yeah,
since you can already do all this, there's tools out there that you can add these mods to the game.
Yeah, because Skyrim's a 6-year-old game. Like, it came out November 11th. 2011. Like, that's a long time ago for releasing a new game at max price like that. And
I think there's a challenge. There's a challenge with PC remakes as well, because, and I was going to touch on this at some point. I guess now is probably a better time than ever. But Deus Ex is one of my favorite games of all time. The original Deus Ex and Deus Ex Human Revolution. And the original Deus Ex is a game I would love to replay. I would absolutely love to see a remastered Deus Ex game released. I would pay full price for it. However, that's just me. If you're into modding, you can play Deus Ex on the PC and go, you know, troubleshoot a whole bunch of mods. And Wooly can probably talk more about this. He knows more than me, but there's a full like remastered skin, all these different mods you can make to make Deus Ex basically a remastered game. For me as a consumer, I'm willing to just pay for it and get, you know, the developers to endorse it and buy a new one. But some would argue that would be a cash grab because it's open source and, you know, the modding community has already done that. But that's a game I'd like to see again, is Deus Ex remastered, because in its current form, it's an original form, it did not age well at all.
Yeah, it's true. There are a few games that didn't age well at all. Like, I tried going back to play Final Fantasy VII, and I was enjoying it. Like, it was a good game, but the graphics are absolutely terrible. Like, a bunch of like, it looks like Minecraft graphics, but worse, which is saying something. But the gameplay is good. Yeah, go ahead.
With Final Fantasy VII, what's interesting is they put Final Fantasy VII, I can't remember if it was released or if I just got it somehow, but I was playing it on the PlayStation Vita somehow. Was it? I can't even remember if that was released or not.
You did have it on the Vita, I remember that.
I just can't remember if I had it legally or not. But the I can't remember. But anyways, on the Vita, it looked great for whatever reason. It didn't look nearly as bad as it does like on a PC. Whatever, it didn't look stretched. It didn't, whatever the resolutions were on that system, it looked fantastic compared to what you're talking about on the PC.
I didn't know that, actually. That actually makes sense. When it's shrink, there's less.
Exactly.
Better resolution.
It wasn't nearly as pixelated. Yeah. But that's probably an illegal way to get the game, so I don't know.
No, I think there was a way to transfer it from like PlayStation to straight to the Vita.
Oh no, it was. Yes, you're right. You're right. Yeah, I bought it on the PlayStation 3 and then I ported it over to the Vita. You could have the ability to do that. I forgot.
Yeah. So yeah, it was legal. That's good.
So that's another cool topic for remasters too, is when the consoles are linked to, the portable version of that. So like Nintendo and Nintendo DS or the PlayStation Vita or whatever that new system is called. I think that's appealing to a lot of people too that want to play some of their old favorite games but on a portable device and take it with them. I think that's has some demand there as well.
Yeah, which the Nintendo eShop has done a fair amount too, with like the original Super Mario 64 is now on the DS, which you could get.
Yeah,
and that was a remaster too. It was, and some games are just plain ported onto a new system, like the N64. Donkey Kong 64 is now on the Wii U, for example, so you could play that on the Wii U gamepad, which is pretty cool.
I think the Nintendo is if we're talking about remastered gods, Nintendo is, the king of that. They know what they're doing, and they arguably put probably the least amount of work into their remasters. Like a lot of their games are literally just re-released on a different platform, and people eat them up and everything. You just talk even remastered consoles, if you want to call it that. Yeah. All those classic editions of consoles.
But is that a remaster, or is that just a re-release?
Probably a re-release. Like they did the same thing. Like so, they put Ocarina of Time on the DS, the exact same thing as Chrono Trigger, and you could call those re-releases, but they still put extra stuff into the game. Like they added extra dungeons and different functionality. They had the 3D effects in Ocarina of Time, I believe. Like they did some different things with it. So yes, I think it was remastered. It depends on how we're defining it. Like the graphics weren't new. They didn't update the graphics, but it was re-released. Super Mario was put on the DS, I think, and
I would
some
agree.
other things.
Yeah, I would agree. Those two are definitely. I would call those remasters too. The Ocarina of Time and Mario. Do you have something to add, Trailer?
No, I was just I didn't know that they'd added new dungeons to the game you were just talking about. Pretty much, if it's just a straight port, then that's what it is. They just ported from one system to another.
Yeah, so like they have the ability now. Like you can just go into the eShop, like Keltharr said, and you could download the original. A lot of the original N64 games and a lot of the different games, and they're literally the exact same game. They haven't done anything with it. I think the issue right now too is like for a lot of the demand, and I think they could make a lot more money, is just licensing issues. Like they can't re-release certain games, like rare games and stuff like that, because of the tie-in to Microsoft now and different things like that. But that I know that's. I have to imagine I don't have any statistics in front of me, but I have to imagine that is making a lot of money for these companies with very little amount of work involved.
Yeah, because some people just want the old base game with nothing changed at all. Like a lot of gamers probably in their late 20s, early 30s, especially, who like the classics.
And it's the consumer. It's the consumers too. Like to my point about the consumers, like the Deus Ex people. I would buy a Deus Ex remake. A lot of people wouldn't. Willie might be one of them because of the mods that exist, and he's played through it probably with those mods. But and that's the same thing with the classic console. Some people would say, "Hey, I'm not going to buy a redone NES with redone NES games, so classic NES with those classic NES games that are redone or remastered or whatever." If they're not, I don't know if they remastered them or not. But even if they're not, some people would say just get an emulator or just play on your old. Like there's mechanisms to get those games. But I think the consumer market now for like you said, the 30 and 40-year-old gamers. Just want remastered versions of their games, and they're willing to pay for it. They don't want to put any work into finding a way to set it up or download it illegally or however. They just want a copy of the game, like StarCraft, right? Like there was debates about StarCraft. People saying they're charging $15 for a reskinned StarCraft game. There's a lot of people that don't like that.
Yeah, but the people that don't like that, they released the first game for free. You can go download it right now, 100% free. The original game, nothing changed. That's it. And
does it have online functionality though?
I believe so. I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure they still kept the servers up.
Like, will they be able to play, like when this remastered game comes out, will those original StarCraft people be able to play with the remastered players?
That's a good point. That's worth looking into. I'm actually not sure. Because
if that's the case, then you could call it a cash grab in the sense that they're releasing it for free to get people kind of enticed to the game, and then if they want to start playing it competitively, they have to buy the remastered version. So it could just be a whole model to get people to buy, right?
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know the answer.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised either way. I wouldn't be surprised if they're separate or if they are or if they are on the same servers, because it really is the same game. It's just reskinned, basically. But yeah, like Propzilla said in chat a while ago, he said without new resolutions added, the old game either stretches or has borders, and generally looks terrible on current widescreen monitors, which is good for remasters in a sense, because it would be really good if Final Fantasy VII, for example, was updated in that sense. And I was kind of hoping for Final Fantasy VII that they would remaster it, and instead they're doing a full reboot. As far as I know, I think they're changing all the game mechanics and everything.
The whole combat and everything is changing in that game. I think another game that has done the remastered thing really well and kind of grown with it is Age of Empires 2. I think Age of Empires 2 was a competitive RTS game that basically was a direct competitor to StarCraft while we were growing up back in the late 90s, early 2000s, whatever. And I think a few years ago they released Age of Empires 2 again, remastered. I don't know, did they call it remastered edition, or I don't know what they called it, HD edition, I guess.
Yeah, I think it was HD edition.
Yeah, so like they re-released the HD edition, and it was basically a reskinned version. They didn't do a lot with it when it first came out, but the resolution was better. And for an RTS game, resolution's everything. Being able to see more on the screen and everything. And Age of Empires 2 was a cult classic. It was followed by millions of people, and a lot of people picked it back up. But since then, they've had additional expansions, like completely new expansions with that same engine, with the old engine, but with the remastered thing. And they've built on that HD edition. So that HD edition remaster has now almost become almost like a reboot, in the sense that they've added expansions and different features within the game. And now they're releasing the Ultimate Edition, I believe, for Xbox. So that's a game that the remaster kind of triggered a whole resurgence of that franchise.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Trelard, did you play either Final Fantasy VII or Age of Empires 2?
Age of Empires 2 I did. It was a game that I enjoyed for a while back when it was first released. I can't remember if I played the HD version. I do believe I own it. Actually, it's yeah, it goes back to the backlog. But I did enjoy the original, and from what I've seen of the new version, that leads into another point. If people are going to be playing it again, if there's going to be a new batch of players coming in, then that can only be good for the online portion of the game.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, for sure. Because a lot of people might just not play at all if the graphics are like from the 90s or early 2000s. But yeah, if the gameplay is solid, which it is, then yeah, why not just rehash the graphics a little bit and bring a new generation into it?
Yeah.
So I don't see anything wrong with that. I guess that kind of leads to another point, though. Do remasters ultimately lead to a lack of innovation in the gaming community or gaming industry?
I don't think it's an arguable thing. I think remasters have contributed to a laziness in the industry. For gamers like us, they are, there's a nostalgia piece where we just want to see the games remade. I always get excited when I see a remake for my favorite game, but I can't not admit, I have to admit, I should say, that, there's probably been a stifling of innovation in the gaming community, or, games that have come out. I don't know. I'd have to look at some trends and see some, over the past few years, have the games, and Willie, you would know this because you play every game, but have games had the same level of consistency in terms of innovation and new ideas and new types of games coming out regularly, or has it kind of tapered off since this whole remastering thing became a thing?
Well, I can tell you back in the 80s, it was pretty much the Wild West. You had ideas that basically nobody had thought of. Now, of course, there were people rehashing ideas that were popular, but there was far more innovation, I feel, back then, whenever it was just a guy sitting in his bedroom coding these games on his own and then sending them out on the old 8-bit computers. You know what I mean? Like every couple of months, there would be a new mechanic that somebody had thought up and found a way to implement into a game. Now that's something you don't really see. Now you've got pretty much them doing the same thing over and over and over, and that leads into the whole remasters thing. for me, if you're going to do the same thing, it's a bit like the movies. I mean, there's a trend in movies where they're remaking stuff from my childhood. It's like, stop messing with my childhood. A good example, one that caused quite a bit of controversy not too long ago, was the new Ghostbusters reboot. Me personally, I didn't like it, but not because there was women in it or whatever else, just simply because it was not a good movie. It just did not stand up to the original two movies for me.
Yeah. Yeah, I heard a lot of people say that movie was not up to standard for sure. Didn't compare to the old ones.
Yeah, I think games are really. I really do think that the mastering of games is stifling the innovation of games. But then you could argue as well that back in the 80s and the 90s, games was a new thing. It was a brand new thing. So obviously there's going to be a lot more new ideas, whereas now we're 30 years in, and it's a lot harder to have a game that's innovative and kind of peaks to the audience. We're seeing MOBA after MOBA after MOBA, and that millions of people play. We're seeing first-person shooters that millions of people play. I don't know, like I have a pretty big Steam friend list from my streaming days. Like I have 140 or 130 people, whatever, on Steam. And it's amazing to me how many people are playing the same game. Like it's like when I'm on and like, almost everybody's in Battlegrounds, or almost everybody's in Overwatch, or almost there's a very kind of like finite number of games that it seems like most people play. I'm guilty of that as well. Like World of Warcraft is a popular MMO, and a lot of people play that, and that's what I spend most of my time with. So I think I've seen a lack of innovation in games in the past little while. I can't really think off the corner of my head the last really like innovative game I played, or like with brand new ideas. Even Battlegrounds is like is not a remaster, but it's a refresh for the fourth or fifth time on the same type of game. So that's kind of.
Yeah, I think with remasters, ultimately it's a comfort level. Like people like what's familiar. So there's some people who play the same Call of Duty games. There's been like a million Call of Duty games. Some people only like Assassin's Creed. How many Assassin's Creed games are there? Like 10? There's got to be like around 10. So like that's another issue too. Like sequel after sequel after sequel of the same game over and over, because I guess the developer knows it works. So why mess with it? Just keep making the same thing over and over. And they know
and then re-release and then re-release the same Assassin's Creed original game on a newer platform or something. Like what is VR? What is VR going to do? Like I feel like when VR becomes mainstream, we're going to see VR remakes of all of our original favorite games. Like I think we're just like we're in the game world, and it's all going to be promoted as we're in these game worlds, and we get to experience them in VR for the first time. And it will require very little work for the developer, from the sense of having to make new content,
which I'm okay with. I think that'd be cool. Personally,
I think it would be cool too, but like what I'm saying is are we a victim of this in the sense of like in the long term as a gamer who I'm happy for remasters, but are you happy for remasters at the cost of perhaps a lack of innovation? Like I want to see some new stuff. I want to see some groundbreaking new games that completely shake up the market, and I'm worried that as remasters become more and more of a thing, like think about all the resources Nintendo has devoted to remastering their stuff, and like all these new consoles. Like they're re-releasing a Super Nintendo now. They're going to be re-releasing a Nintendo 64, I would say, down the road. And like where does the rabbit hole end with that kind of stuff, right? Or is it? And I don't know. Is it not stifling innovation at all? Are we still seeing the same amount of games? I would argue no, if I'm thinking about games that I've played, but. I don't know. What do you think about that, Trelard? Do you like not to jump on Kelthar's train here, but in asking questions, but do you think that like you played games the past 30 years or so? Have you seen it slow down in terms of innovation? Like, and would you attribute that to the remastery, or would you attribute that to just the fact that games have been in the market for a long time and it's harder to get ideas?
Remasters definitely play a role in it, because it's a lot of the times it's seen as easy money, particularly for games that sold well the first time around. The other problem with the innovation aspect would be just the fact that a lot of studios are just cowards when it comes to allowing new ideas to be submitted by their developers.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised if there has been ideas that have been brought up to these big companies, and they've been nixed just simply because they didn't want to take a chance on it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I think what it comes down to is, like, if you remember growing up and you talk to when you were a child and you were talking to people in their 40s and 50s, they say, oh, music was the best back in the 70s. Music died after the 70s. That was the best time for music. And even us, to an extent, when we were kids, we were saying, oh, N64 was the best system. It had the best games and stuff like that. So, like, I think when you get to a certain age, everything that you experienced when you were younger was considered the best, right? Mm-hmm. So I think that developers might have, or might be trying to cash in on that philosophy, I guess, saying like, oh, well, people like what the old stuff is, so bring that in, and then kind of reintroduce it to the new generation. And like you were saying, Arebus, it kind of does stifle things and slow progress down, certainly, I think, because people are just going for that stuff.
You've got the indie developers out there. They're the ones that are making the innovation. They're the ones coming up with these new ideas.
Yeah, I was about to say literally the exact same thing. I was thinking of games like Limbo and different games that have come out that have kind of like, Limbo was like the new platformer that completely kind of changed how platformers were perceived and stuff. Like there's all these little indie games that, and I think to Trelard's point, like the Steam for sure, and to what Propzilla is saying there in chat about the limitations of the technology. With the expansion of technology in PCs and Xbox One and all the the different consoles and stuff, we have a lot more powerful technology. So obviously games have diversified and new things have come out. I would think that the indie developers, to Trelard's point, have definitely capitalized on that, and there's been a lot more opportunity, especially on Steam, for small developers to kind of jump out and stand out to people. But that's kind of what I'm saying is like these big developers that like, and big companies that have the opportunity to make more innovative games and more innovative, innovative stuff. I don't know if they're really doing that, or are they focused too much on these remakes and making 35 sequels of Call of Duty and Assassin's Creed when they could be spending resources on making these new IPs.
Yeah, and honestly, that's what it is. Like, I think the big companies are so focused on trying to make money, they're afraid to go out and do new things. Whereas the indie people are starting out, they want, and for an indie developer to make it, they almost have to make something new, or else they'll just blend in with everything else.
Right.
Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I would agree with that. And I think, and that's kind of the thing. It's like, if I compare it to TV, everyone says right now that we're in the golden age of television. From the history of television, what I read online, this is another topic, but we're in the golden age of TV. Like, there's that many shows coming out that are unique. There's all this, like, it's crazy when you think about all the shows that are coming out, and I'm a big TV watcher, but when I compare it to games, that's kind of where I'm like, are we limited on games? Are we? I really don't know. I'm kind of talking around my head here, but I really do think like if Activision and these huge companies with billions of dollars of resources, like, don't you think by now we should have seen something like massive, like in that, like if you compare to the games that we were playing 10 years ago to the games we're playing now, has there been that much of a change to what we're playing and what we're seeing out there? Yeah, VR is starting to make a little bit of a push, but that's technology again. But from a games perspective, have we seen anything like truly groundbreaking and massive, considering the amount of technology has evolved and the amount of billions of dollars that the money in video games has surpassed like every other industry in the past 10 years, right? Like there's more money in video games than Hollywood, than everything. Like if you look at the money that flows through these big companies. So shouldn't we see something massive like by now? I think we should. And I'm wondering is this whole remastering thing and kind of easy money thing and lazy money, is that hindering it? That's kind of what I'm trying to get at.
Trelard, do you want to take that one?
Yeah, I would agree with that. Of course, you also have, I would argue that the original Elite was remastered in a big way.
That was also
into Elite Dangerous.
Wouldn't you call it a reboot?
No, it's definitely not a reboot. the old game was that simple that you really, yeah, it's basically got the same basic concept. It's just it's got a far better setup. It looks better. It's not randomly generated like the original was to save memory space, but it has this huge universe. I think whenever they created it, what they did in space and made it so vast that the you know what I mean, that's a remaster done right, I feel.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Elite Dangerous is a pretty good game. That's pretty vast.
But like that, Elite Dangerous is a good example. I didn't even think about that one. So like, Elite Dangerous does something insane. Like, yes, you can argue whether it's effective and whatever, but 400 billion star systems in a game is ridiculous. Like, call it what you will. Like, yes, it's all, you know, procedurally generated or whatever the phrase is, but it's that to me is cool. Like 400 billion star systems, a vast space to explore, kind of a 1-to-1 ratio type thing, and it's like that's to me is kind of like a groundbreaking type thing. Star Citizen is another game that's just, it's going nuts with these Kickstarter things and like trying to really like create an innovative new game that like has never been done to that scale before. That's the kind of stuff that excites me. So I think remastering, as we're talking about, has a games has a place, and I'm excited about it. But I still want. I worry how much, you know, because corporations, as Propzilla is saying in chat, there corporations are driven by that bottom line, and they all have shareholders to answer to. Their shareholders are going to say, just make another remastered game. You can make $1 billion on this game when you have to spend all this money to develop this, you know, new model, when you can just remaster this game and make quick, easy cash, right? And that's the problem with these for-profit companies. And then when you compare them to like indie developers or Kickstarter is the best thing that ever happened for the video game industry, because games like Star Citizen and games like Elite Dangerous can exist because they don't have to answer to these huge conglomerate corporations. They can do their own thing and raise money from the consumer. So,
and correct me if I'm wrong, but Star Citizen and Elite Dangerous are indie companies, right?
They're indie. Yeah, I don't know if they might be backed by bigger companies. I don't know. Trelard might be able to speak more on that. But they did start as like the original developer of Elite started his own like little Frontier Studios or whatever it's called, and I think it was Frontier. Was it? Or am I mixing up?
Frontier, yeah.
Yeah, Frontier, the guys that made Planet Coaster as well. So they're not a big corporation. Like they started small and went on Kickstarter and raised the money themselves.
So which
what?
Is, yeah, that's pretty cool. It's nice that they're branching out and trying to do different stuff. But it's like you said, yeah, Elite Dangerous having 400 billion star systems is like huge, and it's not something that's, as far as I know, has been done before, at least not in an entertaining way. I think No Man's Sky did something similar. I just don't think it was implemented as well.
Yeah, No Man's Sky flopped terribly. It was one of the biggest flops of probably the past few years.
Yeah, I heard the game is actually pretty good now, but I think the launch was just tainted it way too much.
Yeah.
Anything else you guys want to say about? We'll move on to reboots in a second, but anything else about remasters specifically?
Just the only other thing that I have here is just about games that have been upscaled from handhelds to console. They annoy me just specifically because, well, one in particular just annoyed the hell out of me. Final Fantasy Type 0 HD. The original was released in October 2011. The HD was released in March 2015. The problem is, one, they didn't add anything to it, and the graphic upgrade was so minimal, you could tell that they really didn't put that much work into it. And just the fact that they didn't add anything else of value to it, because handhelds, of course, aren't as strong as consoles. It's nowhere near using the console to its full ability. Right. So that for me is another type of way to get money for doing very little. But that's the thing.
That's a laziness on the technology too. Like the handhold, like you can hit a button on your cell phone and have your cell phone broadcasting to your TV. So there's no reason that these handheld devices shouldn't be able to do that now. Like I think that's just a handicap that the market's imposed that or that the companies have imposed to make you buy that stuff. Like I think it should all be cross-compatible, I think, and I think that's the direction the industry is going, with cross-compatibility and games working on multiple platforms and buying one copy of the game. Like I really like what the Windows thing is doing there, but yeah, that is annoying having to. The upscaling stuff drives me nuts too. I don't understand that when they just simply upscale a game.
Yeah. Yeah.
The other one I was just going to mention too, that I don't know if we talked about this. I don't think we did. Was Pokemon. Pokemon does ridiculously good remasters, and they've sold better than probably any other remasters that are out there. Right? Like they literally just add the term, like, you know, Pokemon Fire Red, Pokemon Leaf Green, Pokemon Heart Gold, Pokemon Soul Silver, literally the exact same games with some updated graphics on whatever the newer handheld device is. And those are hugely in demand. Like I know for me and Keltharr, those are some of our favorite games, those remakes of the original the original Pokemon games.
I mean, I think it's the same core game, but the stuff they added was all positive in my opinion.
Yeah. And that's a special type of game too, because they update all of the individual Pokemon models, and they update all, like, just the simple fact that, like, the remasters had color. Like the original Pokemon Blue and Red had no color in them at all. Like it was on the original Game Boy. So getting Fire Red and Leaf Green in full color and seeing Pokemon in full color, like that kind of stuff with the original games, like they know how to market it. So I think they're worth noting for sure that they did a really good job.
Yeah. No, I'd agree with that. And like they added stuff at the end of the game, and you can do a lot more content at the end if you wanted to and stuff. So it was just great all around.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. For sure. So let's just quickly talk about reboots, and then we'll wrap it up pretty soon. But I'll start with this one, I guess. So again, reboots are using the franchise's original name, but making basically an entirely new game. So a good example of this is Tomb Raider. And there's a whole bunch of Tomb Raiders that, Trelard, you have played, going back to, do you say 1986? Does it go back that far?
1996.
96,
was the first one on the original PlayStation.
Right. So they go back to 1996, and when was the last one made before the latest one? Do you know that?
I believe it was somewhere in the 2000s. I'm not entirely sure.
Okay, but there was a
before
break.
before they switched to Square Enix to make the reboot.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so there was a whole bunch of different Tomb Raiders all through the years, and then they made the one in 2013, I believe, and it was just called Tomb Raider, right?
Yep.
Yeah, it was like they're almost rebooting the franchise, and that game was amazing. Like I loved that game so much. I beat it twice. It was a fantastic game, and I personally don't see anything wrong with them doing that. Again, it could come back to the creativity and the innovation. Like, why don't they just come up with something brand new and use similar game mechanics? But I think it comes down to marketing as well, honestly.
Oh, well, yeah, in that case with Lara Croft, her assets were rounded out and made it look a bit more lifelike. But I mean, it was a name anyway that was going to make money no matter what they did with it. But the fact they did such a good job with it was absolutely amazing. They took what worked with the original games and left out what was basically annoying about them. Me personally, I enjoyed most of the original series. Getting towards the end, though, it started getting a bit stale and a bit, stupid. But with the reboot, they made the character a bit more realistic in terms of character, and as well as the graphics, of course. And the storyline was actually quite engaging. And they continued that on with the sequel, Rise of the Tomb Raider, which I also enjoyed.
Oh, me too. I beat that game too, start to finish. It was an amazing game. But yeah, and I honestly haven't played the original games. I haven't played anything before the reboot. That was the first one I played. And it appealed to me because it seemed like it was very similar to Uncharted, which is another series I'm a big fan of. Yeah. So the fact that they made that, and I was like, well, I've never played a Tomb Raider game. Let's try it out. And I don't. It almost entices me to maybe go back and try some of the originals. So maybe that could be a good part of it too. Whereas if there is a brand new release game, you have nothing to go back on. Do you know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah.
So, yeah. Did you play Tomb Raider, Arebus? I don't think you did you?
No, I'm not really into those types of games. But for me, the reboots that probably are for me are like there's probably two. XCOM. There was an original XCOM game I think back in 1994, 95 or something like that.
Yeah.
And I didn't even know about it. I was too young probably to have played it. But XCOM came with full force. Like XCOM Enemy Unknown and the other one that came out, like those were excellent games. I didn't play them a lot, but I watched a lot of streams of them. I found it really fun to watch people actually play it. And that kind of did the whole tactical turn-based, whatever that genre is called.
RTS?
Well, it's not real time though, right?
Turn-based
strategy. No, it's not. It's turn-based strategy,
turn-based,
sorry.
Yeah.
Stand corrected.
Those types of games, I think, they weren't doing that well. Fire Emblem was one that was kind of still had some momentum on the DS, but XCOM kind of just took that genre by storm and kind of reinvigorated it. And I think having the old XCOM marketing behind it for the older gamers was good too. I don't like it though when games drop, they try to do a reboot and they just drop a popular franchise. The same with movies. Like they drop a popular title or a popular genre, movie from before or popular game from before, and then they try to capitalize on it. And one that I didn't buy, but I watched enough of to know it didn't live up, was Thief for me. Thief, when I was younger, I played that and Deus Ex and a lot of those older games and really, really enjoyed them. And Thief was an attempt at a reboot. I think it came out in 2014, 2015. And it was an okay game, but I think if that game wasn't called Thief and was just its own new game, it would have done absolutely terribly. It wasn't like, it was just a basic stealth game. But because they called it Thief and it was a reboot of Thief, it was a lot more hyped and had a lot more expectations for it. And so that's when reboots do that, it bothers me because there's no like homage to the original game or no effort from my perspective.
Yeah, like it is. Trelard, do you have something to say about that?
No.
Oh, I thought you were
no.
gonna say
I'm just listening.
Yeah, it's true. If they're just using the name as just a way to bring you in a sense, then that seems kind of frustrating. You were. What was your last point on that, Arebus? Sorry.
I don't remember.
I know my brain is blanking right now.
Well, basically, what you were just saying was that I really don't like it when games don't make much of an effort. Make developers don't make much of an effort to pay homage to the original game.
Yes,
and
that's what it was.
And that kind of thing. It's just like, hey, this is Thief. It's a stealth game, and it's made by was it made by the same people? I don't even know, or did they buy the rights to it? I don't even know. Was it Trelard? Do you know? Was it made by the same?
I can't remember.
Possibly. I've seen that as well.
But
I've seen that as well, where a company purchases the rights to a game name or game franchise, and then just reboots or rebrands or whatever they want to do. And I think that's another lazy type of gaming.
Yes, sorry, that was. I don't know why I blanked on that, but yeah, like Thief. People hear the name Thief, like you said, and they're like, "Oh, I'm going to go buy this game right away. I don't care. I'm just going to pre-order it. It's the name Thief. I'm going to get it." And then it turns out to be bad, and that can be really frustrating when people go out to do something like that because just for the name itself, when the name has nothing to do with it. And I think another reboot, which actually it worked out, but Prey was a game, came out in 2006, 2007, I think, on the Xbox 360. I think it was on PS3. And
it was on PC as well.
And on PC, yeah. And they rebooted that into a brand new game. And it has the same name, but I think other than the name, like are there any similarities? I guess it's a bit of science fiction, but is that it?
Yeah, I think that's pretty much where it's just a completely different storyline, somewhat different mechanics overall, and it actually plays more like an RPG. Maybe along the lines of, as far as the Fallout series, for example, where you can level up certain things.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so like, I guess they're just doing it for advertising, but why not just start a brand new franchise and call it something cool and let it just advertise itself almost?
Like, so here's one. Sorry to interrupt you. And you'll want to talk about this one, Keltharr, is SimCity.
Yeah.
SimCity, and here's another thing. SimCity was... I wasn't that much into the games, but I know you were. The SimCity remake was one of the most bashed games I've ever seen in terms of its online functionality. I don't remember all the details, you know more than me, but it was very, very bashed, very negatively reviewed, terrible, right? But what game came out a year or two later that completely realized there was demand in that field and completely capitalized on it and is one of the best sellers on Steam now? City Skylines.
City Skylines, yeah.
Exactly. So, and that game didn't, I don't know if maybe it was a development at the time, but they capitalized on that demand. And all of the reviews of City Skylines says this is the game that SimCity should have been, right? So they kind of capitalized on that. But again, SimCity was a game that came out that just had the SimCity name. I remember you were really excited about it, and lots of other people were really excited about it. It's just a reboot of SimCity, and it was terrible.
Yeah. And yeah, exactly. People go out and see, SimCity's being made, I'm going to go buy it right away. And really, they shouldn't have, because it was a terrible game. And I think a lot of people are trying to get refunds for it, and it was a disaster. And yeah, City Skylines has a different name entirely. It's a name no one's ever heard of, but they made a game with that name, and it sold really well. So going back to Prey, why didn't they just make a new name entirely? I don't know why they wouldn't do that.
And that's the thing. I think it backfires for developers sometimes. I think SimCity, whoever put all the money into that, whatever company that was, I think it backfires, because if they had released it as a separate game, a different title, different genre, or different, even if it was the same people, just call it something different, it would have had way less hype. And sometimes when you have less hype, less expectation, the game isn't as criticized and can do a little bit better. It probably won't win any awards, but it won't be as nearly as ill received as it normally would be. If you call a game, if they all of a sudden say another RPG is coming out and it's the sequel to Chrono Trigger and Chrono Cross, that game damn well better be extremely good. And if it's not a 10 out of 10 game, it's going to be bashed to hell, even if it's 9 out of 10, right? Whereas it's got a lot to live up to. So a game, it's a big. It'll have some initial marketing and probably sell. Maybe it will sell. There's probably statistics on it, but they've got to be really careful that they deliver a product that has some longevity. And I think that's the issue some companies are running into, and other companies are capitalizing on.
Yeah, and I think that's Legend of Zelda: Breath of the Wild. That game had so much expectation, so much hype, and fortunately, it lived up to the hype. It's supposed to be one of the best Zelda games, but I guess it could have backfired as well if it was a game that was just a lazy way of calling it a Zelda game, because it does differ a lot in mechanics from the other Zelda games, from what I'm told. But that could have really backfired on them, but fortunately it didn't. But if they had made a game very similar to that and called it something different, then maybe it might not have sold as well. You never know.
Right.
But yeah. Is there anything else you want to say about reboots and remasters?
Just one that stands out to me as it done really well was Doom.
Oh yeah, how did we forget about Doom? Yeah, that's
it took reboot. What the original game was and pretty much just went. It's like the original Doom on crack. This thing is insane. It's extremely fast paced. It has special kills in it if you get close enough to the enemy and they start flashing. Melee kills where you can do things like rip off their arms or heads, or what I mean, separate their jaws. It's just the good stuff like that. Honestly, I think it worked really, really well. Better than Doom 3, which is arguably a reboot of the first Doom as well. But this time I think they actually got it right.
Yeah, and I think that's arguably one of the better reboots for sure, I would think. Because I never played it myself. It's on my list. But yeah, they took the original concept of the game and just made it awesome. And there's no false advertising with it. You know what you're getting with Doom. Am I right in saying that?
Yep. Straight up shooter. There's very little story. There's more story than the original, but I mean, it's pretty much go out, kill demons, rinse, repeat.
Yeah, sounds like a lot of fun.
It is.
Yeah. All right, I think that'll do it for that topic. Well, I guess we can have an ultimatum. Do you guys think remasters are ultimate and reboots and stuff are ultimately good for the gaming industry, or do you think we should just completely leave that stuff in the past and start off with new stuff? So I guess.
Well, I don't think we should leave it in the past, but it is oversaturated right now, and it needs to slow down to allow innovation to happen. That's pretty much my view, just to keep it simple.
Yeah, that's a good point, actually. Arebus, what about you?
I agree. It's got to be. It's got to be controlled, but if it's going to keep making money for them, and it's all about the consumers. If the consumers keep buying them, then they're going to keep making them. And like there's like Nintendo's selling them like crazy. Like all the companies are selling them like crazy. So it's going to happen whether we like it to or not. It's really going to be dictated by the wallets of the consumers. And I'm selfish myself. Like I said, if I see a Deus Ex remake, I'll probably buy 10 copies of it. Like it's just the way you get excited about a game, and I think I hope it never leaves the industry. It is really exciting to see your favorite old game, and I think when a lot of our nostalgia from video games is based on when we're children and had a lot more time to play the games, and it's just we remember them a lot more. So I think it's a special part of the industry to have a game remade that you can play and enjoy on your favorite console or PC, update graphics or whatever. So I hope that never leaves. But I do hope that the innovation of games is not stifled and keeps moving forward.
Yeah, I would agree with that too. I hope the gaming industry doesn't rely on remakes and reboots and is still able to move on and create some new stuff. So I think we're actually all on the same page here. So that's rare.
Yeah, I hope the topic next week is something I can vehemently disagree with Trelard on.
Oh, that will come. That will come for sure.
Yes.
Yeah, so we'll leave reboots and remasters there. Just to clue up the rest of the podcast, we'll finish off with some gaming deals. So, Trelard, what can we blow all our money on?
This week, GOG.com has a Telltale sale on. Telltale games are adventure games, very story-driven, and they're usually very good. They're up to 75% off. The most expensive is Game of Thrones. It's $20.29. The cheapest is the two Puzzle Agent games for $169 and $339 a piece. But my pick out of the whole thing, the one that I probably enjoyed the most, and I've enjoyed quite a few of them, but I mean this one just stands out, was The Wolf Among Us, which is $16.89. It's based off of a comic book series, so it's it's got a good storyline, and I enjoyed it. The next thing up would be Humble Bundle, and if you've ever wanted to have Worms, they've got a weekly sale on for it. Most of the Worms games have up to like 80% off, so you're looking at prices from like $2.50 up to the whole way up to like $15.
Is Worms Armageddon there?
It is, and it is $2.99.
That is a steal. That is the best game.
That game is miss.
That needs an HD remake.
So,
it has an HD remake.
It probably does have an HD remake. I don't know.
Next up, we got Bundle Stars. Bundle Stars has Homefront: The Revolution, the Freedom Fighter Edition. It comes with the base game plus the expansion / season pass. It doesn't come with it doesn't come with the cosmetic DLC, but it does come with all the story DLC, which is a big part of it anyway. And it is $8.79. And it's a game I would recommend. That's why I've got it here on my list.
Nice. So all these games, well, most of them you would recommend. I guess the ones that are you're really.
Oh yeah. Pretty much whenever I make up these lists, they're games that I've either played myself or, have heard very good things about.
Cool.
So, yeah. And the only other thing that I have on my list here is on Steam. And it is Grid 2 if you like a bit of arcade car racing. This is definitely one for you. And it is going for $8.24. So, that's the deals.
Cool. Thanks for that, man.
And on Arebus's gaming deals, no, I'm just kidding. But the Green Man, we should note Green Man Gaming as well is still having their summer 2017 sale.
Oh, okay.
And right now on the flash deals, Deus Ex Mankind Divided is 75% off. It's only $15, down from $59.99. And Life is Strange Complete Edition. I just almost completed Life is Strange with Keltharr. I'm one episode to go, and it's one of the best games I've ever played. And I don't play single player games. That is 75% off, and you can get the entire episode 1 to 5, all DLC, complete season for $5.
Get it? It'll change your life.
It will change your life. And also on the flash sales here are BioShock Infinite for $7.50, Fallout 4 for $15, and Mad Max for $8. And then there's a whole bunch of other sales. That's on greenmangaming.com.
Fallout 4 is $15.
Yeah.
I think I might need to pick that up.
Yeah, I would
off.
pick it up. That is a good deal.
Yeah. That's wicked, actually. These are, and these are all Canadian prices, correct?
No, I'm pretty sure they're American.
Is Green Man Gaming American? Oh, okay.
I think so. But there's also a voucher there. If you put in summer 2017, you get an extra 15% off the prices I just said. So that'll put it down toward the. It's a pretty good deal. I don't know how much longer this 2017 sale is on. I actually thought it was over. I just checked randomly, but it's a pretty good deal right now.
Yeah, that's weird. Do they have flash deals too? You said
those
were
the flash deals.
Were the flash deal. Okay.
Yeah, there's a whole bunch of other stuff on sale, but that's just the flash deals that you get the extra 15% on.
That's wicked.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. Well, that's it for the gaming deals, I guess. That'll pretty much do it for us tonight. So this was episode 2 of I Never Cast for This. If you want to reach us by email, you can contact us at inevercastforthis@gmail.com. We're also on Twitter and Facebook and twitch.tv, which is where we are now, twitch.tv/inevercastforthis. If you want to tune in live on Mondays at 8:30 p.m. Eastern Time. And our other website is inevercastforthis.libsyn.com. And there's links on that page to all our different podcast platforms. And you can find us on iTunes and Google Play and Stitcher and CastBox currently. Other than that, I think that'll do it for us, unless you guys have anything else you want to say before we go. Anything you want to plug, anything like that?
Nope.
That's it. Twitch.tv/Arebus. I haven't streamed for 2 years. Might do it again sometime.
Sometime, yeah. And I stream as well sometimes. I'm twitch.tv/Keltharr. I stream sometimes, not all the time, but every now and then. You might catch me there. And other than that, I think that'll do it for us. And we'll see you next week, same time, Monday night, 8:30 p.m. Eastern Time. And we'll see you then. Hope you all have a fantastic week, everybody.